So let's talk about bedding and sleepy furtles. Now this is quite an important one if they're outside and to a degree inside. This is some of the options of bedding that we have. So your old towel, apparently this is an old towel, I was given it, to be honest. This is better than some of our indoor towels, but whatever. And this is a ferret towel. Towels are great because they are just what they are, but the fact is that they're very absorbent, and that's important, especially if you've got quite a few ferrets in the group, because ferrets will breathe, if you're lucky, which means they're breathing out warmth and moisture, and you need something to absorb that moisture, more so outside. So another option then is using man-made bedding, such as these pet rugs that you can get from loads of stores. Now these are great, they're so easy to wash and dry, excuse me, but because they're man-made, they don't absorb water, which means if you've got the moisture of ferrets breathing, if you've got quite a few ferrets in that cage or in that bed, the moisture from their breathing is going to sit, it's not going to get absorbed into it, and it's not as well going to evaporate off it necessarily, especially if it's not particularly warm weather, which is basically all year round for us in here in the UK. So if you are using man-made bedding like this, just try and be sure to change it every couple of days, at least weekly if you can, to keep it healthily, because otherwise the moisture sitting could cause issues, respiratory issues for your furtles. What we tend to do is have a bit of a mix. I'll have more absorbent material on the bottom part of the bed. Here is a bed. Here's one I made earlier. I will put my more absorbent material in the bottom, and that does what it says on the tin, and then I'll pop this on top, and this is the stuff they'll scrunch around and get themselves into, and then you know that they've got a good solid bottom which is going to absorb a lot of the moisture, but they've also got the warmth and the easiness of this, so you can drag this out, wash these often, and maybe keep this in for a little longer. But again, just use your noggin when it comes to these and take them out when they're starting to get smelly and dirty. Some people wash and change daily. We physically cannot do that. My washing machine would die before that was able to happen, but I do try and keep it as regular as possible, usually weekly. So always make sure your furtles have a nest area, something like this, and this is what we would put in the nighttime area of the cage. In a hutch, that will be the blanked off area, which is darker and protected from the wind and the cold a little bit, and that's what we would use. What we also have is what I like to call the day bed, a hammock. I just grabbed this one, but some of them have pockets in as well, which are great. But a lot of ferrets like the hammocks, as a lot of you will know, and they like to just sit and watch the world go by during the day in the hammocks. Some of them will sleep at night in them, but for a lot it's their day bed. And we will always make sure that there's at least one hammock and at least one nest bed in every hutch or every cage. If it's outside and it's winter, going back to the issue of man-made bedding, please be very, very careful, because again, they're small little critters and their respiratory tract is very tender. And again, if this freezes with moisture on it, that can keep their temperature down. If in the cold weather, this really will not nothing will evaporate, and it will just sit and fester, and that can cause respiratory issues. So it's less about the cold for ferrets in the winter, and it's more about making sure that they're dry. And the way to do that is to use more absorbent bedding, use newspapers, anything like that, and change it regularly. That is just as important, if not more important, than keeping them warm. They will keep themselves warm.